Read something to kind of get you in the mindset. This is, I like going back and reading after action reviews. We call them AARs in the military. And this is a book that kind of went back and looked at what happened a little over a year ago. October the 7th, 2023, sunrise. Hamas terrorists broke through the gates dividing Israel from Gaza, swarming into Nahal Oz, one of the kibbutz, and other unsuspecting Israeli communities. They chopped off the victims' breasts, genitals, arms, and feet, and shot, burned, tortured, raped, and beheaded them. Israelis fought for their very lives, but by the end of the day, an unfathomable 1,200 of them had been slaughtered. And to put that in context and relative to the United States of America based upon population, the 1,200 that was lost in Israel is equivalent to 42,000 being lost here in the United States of America. Hamas had rehearsed their military campaign for 2 years, and as we know, it was supported by Iran. It was also planned by members of the Revolutionary Guard and the Al-Quds Force. There were 3,000 terrorists who attacked with bestial ferocity, fueled by a highly addictive amphetamine called Captagon. But drugs alone don't explain this brutality. These terrorists had been raised to hate Jews, to learn how to kill them, and to relish the day they might be unleashed to bring about a bloody reckoning. They learned this in schools sponsored by the United Nations and funded by international donors, including the United States. And just so you understand something, since 2005, when Israel left the Gaza Strip, there have been some $35 to $40 billion that have gone into the Gaza Strip for reconstruction and economic development. For 3 decades, Hamas indoctrinated Gazans with the promise of deliverance, but instead brutishly tightened their bonds. I think all of us like to live in a country with democratic processes. There has not been an election in the Gaza Strip since Hamas basically pulled a coup against Fatah, and that was in 2007. No elections since 2007 in Gaza Strip. It had only one aim: annihilate Israel. On October 7, 2023, scores of Jews were killed, as well as 17 Arabs, including a 9 months pregnant Bedouin woman wearing a hijab. 33 U.S. citizens were also killed. The terrorists took nearly 250 hostages of 20 nationalities and 5 different religions. As a matter of fact, I think we need to remember this young man, Omar Nutra, who was just confirmed dead from October the 7th. He was an American-Israeli soldier. Hamas imprisoned is captive in a network of tunnels built to facilitate military action and store weapons. That's what they used the billions of dollars for. Some of the hostages were released, others were killed. As of this writing, 99 of the remaining hostages are thought to be alive. The Hamas terrorists themselves documented the attack in real time with gun-mounted cameras and through social media posts. But it's not just October the 7th, 2023. I think the most important thing is to kind of take a walk back in history to try to understand how did we get to this point in the first place. And if you want to study history, you got to go all the way back to AD 70. And why is it important to go back to AD 70? That was during the time when the Romans and Emperor Hadrian came in and they sacked Jerusalem. And what the Romans did at that time, they renamed Jerusalem to Aelia Capitolina. That did not settle well with the Jewish people. And they consistently tried to revolt against the Romans. Finally, they had a successful revolt in what was called the Simon Bar Kokhba Revolt, 132 to 135 AD. But Emperor Hadrian was not going to let these people in this province called Judea rise up against the Roman Empire, so he sent the full force of Rome to crush them. And when I say crush them, he wanted to crush Judaism, because he felt that was the reason why the Jews continued to rise up and revolt against the Romans. So what Emperor Hadrian decreed after the Simon Bar Kokhba revolt was that the name of this area, the name of that land, would no longer be referred to as Judea. It would be renamed to Syriac Palestina, P-A-L-A-E-S-T-I-N-I-A. That was the first time that word was ever introduced into that region, 135 AD. Now, let's understand a little bit about language and history. The root word of Palestina is Philistia. Of course, the old Philistines, we remember the story about Samson and Gaza and what have you. But to understand even furthermore that the ancient Philistines were not indigenous people to that region. The ancient Philistines tracked and traced their heritage and their lineage back to the Greeks. So the word that everyone is fighting about, the word that everyone is upset about, that now today we call Palestine, is a word that comes from the punishment of the Jewish people for revolting against the Romans in the Simon Bar Kokhba revolt. It has nothing to do with a lot of the other things that we'll talk about.